She, and who else is with us? I think Bob, Prema is there. I see Netta and Charlene. It is so hard not to think about cheesecake when you see Charlene. She makes amazing cheesecake. It's true. You can't deny it. And so many other people are here. Yes, that's fabulous. So great to be together. We're going to do a couple different things. I'm going to, just to kind of create more chaos, I'm just going to have my kids making a lot of noise in the background throughout our time together. I want Sara to feel at home and comfortable with her kids making noise in the background. And I think what you have to understand for Sara and for myself is we move through the world with kids making a lot of noise in the background. And that's just what life is like now. It was like that before, but now it's like that more. It's like more of that. So some people say kids are a blessing. Some people say that. I think it's mostly true. Most of the time, we love them. And part of why we love them is we love to feed them. And so I'm so delighted to be here with all of you tonight and with Sara Kaufman, who is an extraordinary cook and baker. I've eaten many of her baked goods before. Our kids were at the ECC at Leo Beck Temple before. And it is just so fantastic that we are able to have her on the show tonight. Cantor is unable to make it tonight, but she sends her love. And as it goes, you know, she is the sweet one, and I am just a little bit more of the spicy one. So, and Sara, maybe you can, we'll see who Sara is. Sara more sweet, is she more spicy? She got combo action going. So that will be revealed. Even though Cantor is not with us, she did prepare a new intro song for us. And so I'm going to invite Suhasini, when you are ready, to release that. Hey, Dana. Hello, Marilyn Ross. Let's see if we can get that going. I hope you're all sitting down.
Sweet and spicy, sweet and spicy. It's the sweet and spicy hour.
Boom. And I actually have someone here who is sweet and spicy, which is my son Z. Who delighted. Would you like to join us? Okay. So everything is early. We don't even know it yet, but all the Jewish holidays are coming much earlier than we expected. We have Passover starting at the end of March, and we have Purim is basically upon us. Purim is upon us, and Purim is when we remember a very intense story. That is another story of where people wanting to the Jews, and we have this powerful woman, Esther, who stands up to her husband and says, "What are you doing?" And the Jews are saved. And after that, things kind of go downhill for the Jews at that point, because then they do some really horrible things that we generally don't talk about with kids. And anyway, Sarah's with her kids, so I'm not going to share that part, but if you Google it, it's pretty awful. But that's part of our story. And we often like to celebrate victories, and we like to celebrate our holidays with delicious baked goods. And one of them is the hamantaschen, which is one that I actually remember my mom coming in where I grew up in Concord, Mass. Not a lot of Jews. I was the only Jew in my class. And I actually remember when one of the kids asked me where my horns were, and I couldn't find them. So my mom came into the class and she taught the whole class how to make hamantaschen. And I remember that. I remember her doing that. So maybe other people have that experience, but hamantaschen are both to represent Haman, and in Israel they're meant to represent the ears of the hamantaschen, or some people think of it as the hat. So just like many things in the Jewish history, there are many different tales about how we arrived at this moment. But anyway, it's just another opportunity to have something delicious to check in on that history, to think about how it informs how we are living in this world, in this moment. Where there is also people who move through the world with a lot of hatred, not just for Jews, but for other people. So it is an important holiday to be marking and celebrating, and a place to feel a lot of pride about standing up and also celebrating women in leadership positions. So with that, I'm excited to hand it over to Sara Kaufman, who is a member of our board of directors, who is a leader, who is an amazing mom and amazing human in the universe. And take it away, Sara.
Thanks, Benjamin. So we're going to make hamantaschen. It's something that I've loved to make with my kids. My mother-in-law doesn't make it, but loves prune hamantaschen, will eat a prune hamantaschen from anywhere that she can find one. So prune is one of the fillings that we have here today, and I've always made it with my kids. So I already have the filling, or I have the fillings prepared. Sorry. This is Cassia. She will be my assistant. There might be other children joining. I have 3 girls, Logan, Cassia, and Hazel. So Cassia wanted to help out. So here she is. And we are gonna roll out. I already made the dough because it does need to rest. And that helps the moisture soak into the flour and hydrate it and make it so that it will stay together. So I made mine this morning. It is still a little bit moister than I would like. You can have it rest in the refrigerator from anywhere from an hour to overnight to 3 days. So it sort of depends. I ended up making mine this morning. So I think if I rolled it out tomorrow, it would be a little bit easier. But you'll see, I am going to use some flour to roll it out. And the recipe that we're using today is actually from the LBT ECC. When my girls were there, the director at the time, Sally, used to have me make this every year. It is a very basic recipe. I realized actually the way that I have it written, I can't find it right now, but it literally just, oh, here it is. This is what she had given me every year. I don't know if you can see, but it just says butter, sugar, vanilla, egg, and there's like no directions. So when I sent it to you, I sent it with slightly more directions. But it's a very basic sort of sugar recipe. So I'm going to take my dough. I took it out of the refrigerator just a few minutes ago to let it soften up just a little bit. And we're just going to roll it out with the rolling pin.
And Sarah, what's your favorite filling?
I really love apricot filling, and I actually bought some jam the other day. And then as I was preparing for this, I decided to make my own jam. So over here we have some apricot jam, but I also have strawberry that was purchased, prune. What's your favorite?
Oh, I feel like it's evolved. It's very hard. Like my kids, basically the only thing that they want to stuff in a hamantaschen is chocolate, which, hard to knock that. We made some fig jam. We have some fig trees here. That was like mind blowing fig jam. And I think that's pretty special. I definitely grew up with a lot of prune hamantaschen. My mom is a little bit of a prune addict. And I love a prune. You too?
No, I was going to say, Marilyn, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, she has many secrets that are going to be revealed on Sweet and Spicy. And, I'm also intrigued by the poppy filling. I don't know about other people, but poppy, I don't know whose idea that was. It's obviously a big thing in Eastern European cooking, but it's got a certain crunch and there's a certain amount of intrigue, I think, with poppy. And I don't know. I feel like it's always been one I've wanted to be more connected with than I have been historically. Where are you with poppy, Sarah?
I don't really know much about poppy, and it's interesting that you say that because I didn't look into making a poppy filling, but I feel like it would be, I don't know how they make it. Like, what else is in there other than just poppy seeds? I've never looked it up.
I don't know what the connective, there must be maybe hopefully some sugar and gelatin. And then poppy is a narcotic as well. Am I right, Sarah?
You are right. It's an opioid.
Yeah, and so what are we pushing with the kids? Cookies. I think it's a question for consideration.
I see where the spicy is coming in. I wasn't sure where we were going with this, but now I get it.
Okay.
So really quickly, not to detract from the drug conversation, but let's see. So I'm going to take a 3-inch biscuit cutter, and I've been using this just really basic round one, but I also have a fluted one that I did a few with earlier that was really pretty. And if you don't have one of those, you can take like a Tupperware like this that's open and just use it. Or you can take a mason jar, really anything that's round in about 3 inches. That seems to be about the right size. Yeah, so Cassia wants to use one that's a little bit smaller, and that's totally fine. The only problem with that is that it's a little bit harder to fold. Freema says, my non-Jewish friends think poppy seed filling sometimes, is mixed with, it went away for me.
I can read that to you. I can read that to you, Sarah.
Okay.
Freema says, my non-Jewish friends think poppy seed filling, sometimes it's mixed with honey and nuts, is like eating used coffee grounds, but it's my husband's favorite.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. So that's interesting. And of course, now I'm totally intrigued. Now, when you cut out you want to make as much out of the dough you've rolled out as possible. Here, let's switch with me. So you want to try and get them as close together as possible so you don't really have to re-roll. Here, you keep this one, but we're going to make them as close together. There we go. All right, and we'll do a few more over here. Now, if your dough, hold on one second, is sticky, you want to really liberally flour the board and your rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, I like a wine bottle to be able
I like
to
a wine bottle too, Sarah.
I know you do, Benjamin.
I love a wine bottle.
But really any round bottle would be just fine. I was actually, as I was thinking about it, like a bottle of Pam or canola oil spray would work perfectly well. And you just want to get it till about 1/8 of an inch thick. You don't want it to be too thick, but you also don't want it to be too thin. So then you want to peel the dough around. Now my dough, now that we've been chatting, has gotten rather soft. So we'll have to see how this works. But you'll get the idea.
Yeah, I'm wondering if other people want to put in the chat box, like what are some of the fillings that they like to put in? Any kind of family favorites that you have, things that we might not be thinking of, cinnamon, raisin, I don't know.
Yes, I would love
Nutella. Like, I feel like Nutella is a breakthrough filling right now, right? What's your favorite?
Yes, we do Nutella. We've done chocolate, although I'm not so into chocolate chips. So I tried hot fudge. I'll show you the results of that in a little bit. Thank you. I also today tried some caramel bites. Ooh, arugula filling, delicious.
Sounds good. We like that. We'll be by later.
Caramel. I've never had hamantaschen with caramel.
I know, me neither. So I have some here. Maybe at the very end, I'll have Cassia taste it and she can let you know how it turned out.
Sarah, I made this 100-hour cookie recipe. Have you seen this recipe from Alvin?
It was delicious.
It was insane, but you make your own, you brown the butter and then you make your own toffee. We tried it right after. We did it as a 100-minute one where it was like insane. It was like toffee and dark chocolate with this brown butter in the dough. It was amazing. We didn't wait. They didn't get better as you waited, but making your own toffee was huge upgrade.
That sounds delicious.
I know. Maybe not.
So here's what I'm going to do. One of the key things about filling your hamantaschen, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to have as much filling as possible, which is wonderful, except for you actually don't. The more filling you put in, the more it will explode out. And all of a sudden your hamantaschen will become a giant mess. So 1 teaspoon for a 3-inch round seems to be the perfect amount of the right kinds of filling. For my hot fudge ones, it doesn't matter what number I did, it just exploded everywhere. But I'm going to take over here a little bit of prune filling in my teaspoon, and I'm just going to plop it right in the middle of the hamantaschen dough that I have there. Now, everybody goes with the pinch way. I am finding that a lot of my pinching also explodes. So I found this new way for me to fold the hamantaschen. Hold on, Cassia needs one of these, and it's very interesting. I have a bench scraper.
Yeah, what is that? That looks so smart.
So it's a bench scraper. I have a couple of them, and I use them when I make challah. I use them when I make pie dough. These are from Amazon. This one is actually a painter's scooper thingy that scraper that we use, but these are thinner and they're more flexible, and you can get them on Amazon. I'll look up the thing and I'll put it in the chat.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're really like life altering. So Cassie is going to try it now. Our dough's been sitting, so it's really soft. Okay, can I help? Okay, great. There we go.
And if
So
you
here.
have any questions also, you can put them right in the chat, and Suhasini can catch them and then filter them in. She's kind of a very skillful chat moderator. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them. And Suhasini, if things emerge in the chat, like interesting fillings for us to consider, you could also share that.
Call her back.
All I have so far is that Nancy Desser thinks you prefer your wine bottles vertical. Benjamin.
Right.
That's all I've got so far.
Okay. Can you eat one of the other ones? My husband is asking, I already baked some hamantaschen and he's wondering if he can eat them. And I'm like, could you wait till I show them? So here's what we're gonna do. Let's see. So there's the pinching method and then there's this other method. So I like to scoop up one side and lay it down nice and flat like that. Can you see that? Suhasini, can you see it or should I move it?
Move it to your left a little bit because there is a lot of light there.
How about here?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Here, we'll just do it on here. Okay. Can you put the dogs out? Can you see them? So then you're gonna fold the other one over to the other side and you're gonna pull it up. Now, I need to put the dogs out. And then you make a little, it makes it like a little, I always think it looks kind of like a sailboat. So let's see. We'll do it again. These are a little bit, these are chilled. I put them in the refrigerator just to chill them because it had gotten so soft already. So here's a little apricot filling and I'll show you that technique again. You're just gonna fold up one side, make a triangle, since that's the shape we're going for, the shape of Haman cat. The other side, and at the top, instead of pinching, you're gonna fold it up and over. And then you make a nice little hat there. And then you just keep going. You just keep filling with all of, sure. Here, I'm gonna put this wrong way. No, the chocolate's not really working. Let's try this one for now and I'll get you some chocolate. Okay, I'll get you a caramel. All right, here, we'll try a caramel just to see how it works. So I got these
Don't you think that's gonna kind of explode?
Well, it's very interesting. The ones that I did earlier did not explode.
Oh, okay. They must be like high viscosity caramel.
They are. It's very bad.
Do you put a little sea salt on that?
You could. That would be delicious. Add a little salt to my sweet.
Does the caramel dry out in the oven?
Ooh. Ruben had a question here. If the caramel dries out in the oven. And
that was a good
Zeke
question.
also wanted to know if you could send us some. That was Zeke's question.
Zeke, I will definitely bring you some. So here is actually the completed one, and it kind of melted. It is a little bit hard, but I think it might be delicious. Cassia will be my sampler, and she'll let you know what she thinks.
But when I'm done eating my real caramel.
Oh, if she's eating a real caramel, this is a nice
Can't
pre-dinner snack we're having over here. So let's see. So the other traditional way to do it, and I just find that for whatever reason, my pinches never quite work, but you put your filling in the middle. And if you want to pinch it, you just come up from the sides and you make sure you really get that pinch for the triangle, that top sealed and the bottom. If you want at this point to try and get it to stick a little bit more, you could always do a little bit of an egg wash and that will give it a brighter sheen as well when it bakes. I like mine more plain, so I don't usually do that, but a nice pinch like this, if it's pinched well and you don't use too much filling, can really work for you as well. So it's sort of it's up to you.
I made that.
No, I made that one.
Sarah, was there like kind of a spiral one going on there?
Yes, Cassia.
Oh, I love that. It's like
Pinch
Starfish gone wild. Have you seen my octopus teacher? Have you seen that story?
My octopus teacher?
It's so good. It's on Netflix. It's a documentary if people haven't seen it yet. It's about a guy who lives on the very bottom tip in South Africa, and he ends up committing to go in the ocean every day, and he develops this relationship with an octopus, a tiny, small octopus, And it's actually so sweet and loving. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of mind-blowing. I think my mom saw it.
I want to see it.
And Ruben would like to see it. It's really great. Anyways, that looked like a little baby octopus. I'm sure it doesn't taste the same, but.
That sounds fabulous. Well, yes. Sorry, I have children coming out of my ears.
Movie tips here, cooking tips.
Other tips. So you're going to put them in the oven. It's very good. Oh, so it feels like the caramel hardened, but based on the amount that's dripping off of her face and out of the thing, it looks like it's kind of gooey. So Ruben, I will deliver you some one of these days.
Okay.
So it's kind of like sap. It's hard on the outside, but it's soft on the inside.
Absolutely. So bright.
That is your child, Rabbi Ross.
He's very good. You can get him describing food. It's pretty. It's a core.
So other tips, you're gonna just put them in the oven. You know, ovens vary, but at about 350 for about 12 to 15 minutes is sort of what I found to be really good. You want the bottom to start browning just a little bit.
Do you do a little egg brush on it?
You can do a little egg brush. I said, if you want, I don't usually, I like mine more sugar cookie like, but you absolutely can. You could drizzle, I loved your idea of a little sea salt. Maybe if you put chocolate chips in it and a little bit of sea salt on the outside, that would be delicious. Yeah, you could also do a little coarse sugar, like a little sugar in the raw to give you a nice crunch on the outside. I think that would be wonderful as well.
Okay, so did you put them in?
I'm going to put them in just a second.
Okay, is there anything else you wanted to say about hamantaschen?
There is nothing that I want to say unless there's questions that anybody has.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer.
We have some master bakers on this watching. I know we have some serious hardcore bakers here. I've eaten some of their baked goods, so they might have their own experiences, their own tips that they would want to put in the chat box to complement some of what you
would love to know any of their tips. I'm always looking for new ways to try things. As you notice, we're not the most sanitary right now. We are the only people who will be eating these.
That's not fair to your family.
No, that's good. That's what they want. They're just going to eat it all themselves.
Nice.
Anything in the chat box, Suhasin, you want to share with us?
You're muted.
I just saw one favorite filling, which is hold on, let me see if I can find it here. Bon maman, which is a jam from France that I think has like less sugar and it's like really, really yummy. I've just been looking it up during this. So that's the one. I remember those ECC hamantaschen, and I also remember Betsy of the ECC making hamantaschen with chocolate, not chocolate chips. I think they were actually it was just like chocolate sauce and cherries or raspberries. That's my favorite.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Well, it's a good combo.
It is like one of the great things about our tradition. I was just talking with someone today about just with Passover coming up and thinking about the Haggadah, and everybody does the Passover Seder in their own way. And it's that is really what we want to encourage, is that whatever hamantaschen you're doing, that you're obviously just make things that are super tasty for you and to have fun and to be creative. And Sarah, if you don't have anything else, we're going to jump into our roasted vegetables.
Let's do it. I am going to put these in the oven and we'll see how they come out in a little bit.
Okay, so now the deal is, Sarah, I know you only signed up to do the hamantaschen, but with the sweet component of sweet and spicy not present with us today, as you want to stay on and ask questions, or sometimes I will go faster than I should be, and sometimes Cantor Kates will just like kind of rein me in. If you want to do that you're welcome to.
I'm on it. I would love to. And I have my vegetables somewhat par prepped so that I can cook along with you.
He's an amazing cook. Trust me, I tasted almost everything.
He does. Ruben is great. So the breakdown in our house is Zeke will eat 7 to 8 servings of fruit a day. He'll have, blackberries, he'll have pears and apples and oranges, he's a multiple melon, mango, and Ruben only eats mango and coconut. Orange and coconut. But Ruben,
pomegranate, don't forget pomegranate.
This is my show. You do your own show. You could be up here. He will eat every vegetable pretty much that except for beets. Anyways, we're going to jump into our roasted vegetable portion of the evening. And I want to just say, it's been like a nonstop cooking because we're just eating at home all the time, 3 meals a day. And so when I'm cooking, I'm not that interested in cooking for one meal. When I cook, I want to cook for multiple meals. So he's really like throwing me off. You gotta sit down. Hello, I'm talking into a standing custard. I don't even know what was I talking about roast vegetables. Anyway, so when I cook, I try to cook for multiple meals, and then we reuse it in different ways. So I'm gonna ask you to sit down.
What did you do?
You sit there. Okay. So we also can get kind of bored of things. Like it can be kind of tiring to keep making the same thing. So if there are things that we like, then we will make it multiple times, but we'll try to tweak it in different ways. So what I wanted to do today was to do primarily talk about how we do our roasting of vegetables. This is like, obviously most people do this at home in different ways. And hey, can you sit down? Thanks. So it's just great when you find things that you love, and it's great to try new things. So the ones that most people are roasting potatoes is obviously a core thing. So we are, he's really throwing me off. It's very distracting because I don't really see him there, but then I see him there.
I totally get it. I was having the same problem, so you're good.
It's very unnerving. He's having a very good time. This is what I'm talking about, being at home all the time with them. So, hey.
You're much more patient than I was feeling. It is very hard to balance with them talking in one ear while you're trying to articulate what you want to do. But we are also having the same thing where we are cooking at home all the time and needing to find new varieties. And my kids will eat, one kid eats one thing, the other kid hates that thing. And especially if one of them has decided she doesn't like anything, my oldest, the middle one will be like, I love that, and then ask for that every night. So one night I made a chicken chili, and my oldest was like, this is disgusting, it has coconut in it. And now the middle every night is like, can we have chicken chili? Can we have chicken chili? And it's really special.
Thank you for covering for me for a little bit.
I got your back.
You definitely do. I really appreciate it. So I think Ruben will be back. It might take a moment. So the vegetables that I wanted to present are some that will be very familiar to you, that I think many people roast, like sweet potatoes. I have been buying these organic sweet potatoes, which I feel like melt in your mouth. Ruben thinks of them as like sweet potato pie. And I like to leave them on and chop them pretty roughly. And just everything I want to do, I want to just like keep it as simple as possible. So I'll just do 2 cuts like this. So they're just nice big pieces, and they can be slightly different sizes. It doesn't really matter. The more even they are, the more evenly they will bake. And then, we have these sweet Vidalia onions. Again, there's a ton of different types of onions. I happen to love these sweet onions. And with these, what I find is important is you want to give them some room to roast, meaning that you want to cut them thick enough that they can really be in the oven for a while. And so I will just cut these in half. So they're about this thick. And then I might flip them once while they're in the oven. More interesting, I would say, is cabbage. Many people have mixed relationships. Many Jews have mixed relationships with cabbage because often we have experienced overcooked cabbage or boiled cabbage or unrecognizable cabbage in soup. It happens to be that Liz and I are absolute lovers of cabbage. And I think many of us over the last 10 or 15 years have had kind of a new relationship with Brussels sprouts. If you just have come into your own with Brussels sprouts recently, in the oven, baked, or sometimes even fried. I see Peachy has her hand up and other hands are up. There's like a whole Brussels sprout revolution happening. And you know what? What is a cabbage? It is just a really big Brussels sprout. It is just a big Brussels sprout. And so what we want to do is we want to cut it. We want to cut it thick enough because we also don't want to take up a huge amount of space on the cutting board, but thin enough so that it can cook through. So I usually do about this. It's about a little bit thicker than my finger, not quite 2 fingers. And this middle part here, this stem, which can be kind of bitter, when we see is that when we put just a little bit of olive oil on it, you'll see you put it flat on the pan and it gets really nice and brown. And I'll talk to you in a minute about how I roast it. And then I'll flip it halfway through. And I have some here that I'll pull out in a second. But this way you can cut up, depending on the size of these, you can cut them up into 4 or 5 or 6 parts, depending on the size of the cabbage. And what's great about these end pieces is they turn into the most perfect like taco cups. Like if you're trying to cut out the carbs, you can use these and they're just fantastic for holding other meat or other vegetables or fish. They hold sauces. You can wrap them up. It's fantastic. So I think cabbages are a boon. And I think red cabbages, as you'll see in a moment, are particularly gorgeous. This purple cabbage or red cabbage. And it gets caramelized from that, I think it's called the Maillard effect, when the browning happens and the sweetness emerges. And this gets kind of molten softness. It's just delicious. It's so good. And of course, other favorite that you see so much in restaurants these days is with cauliflower. They seem to be using a lot of fried cauliflower or baked cauliflower. And I found that with cauliflower, the one tip that I would have is just like kind of chop it into slices as well. We often see that you have to kind of cut out the bottom and then pull apart the florets. And I'm just like, I can get through all of this in about 15 or 20 minutes and fill up 3 trays in the oven. And then I have 3 significant trays of baked goods and you know,
Of vegetables, roasted vegetables, not baked goods.
Well, they're so sweet. It's like, they call it candy. It's really amazing. It's amazing, Sarah. My kids kind of, at least Reuben, thinks of it as a kind of sweetness. So what I do is I just slice these about this thick. So this is a big fat piece, but when you put olive oil on it, you can eat all of it. It softens up, it's delicious, and it takes up less space, and it's just like a little bit less fussy. Like nobody has time. We're not having house guests. We don't have to present the most perfect looking food, but you want food that is delicious and nourishing and healthy. So I think it is a big time saver. I just cut off the very bottom. You can actually eat this stuff. I mean, this can be roasted too, especially the thicker parts. And
we love the stalks.
What's that?
We love both broccoli and cauliflower stalks in my house, where they're really like delicious.
So good. The stalks are particularly good for the stir fry. The last one I want to add, which I think is fantastic, is the beet. We get these organic beets. You can cut it here. We always keep the beet greens, and you can just cut up the stems pretty small and cut up the greens a little bit rougher. Wash them really good, and they're fantastic. Instead of buying kale or Swiss chard or something, just keep the beet greens. And then with the beets, look, they're not like super beautiful. It looks a little bit like it has a rat's tail. It's not a fantastic feature of the beet. But once you start getting at it, it's extraordinarily beautiful. And you can see that yellow come through. And different than the red beets, it doesn't get all over your hands or all over your counter. And that is a really nice feature of these yellow beets. And they clean up and chop very easily. So you have a nice big chunk of beautiful, sweet beet meat when you cut it up. And so again, I just try to do this. I do it in half, and then I'll cut each of those in half. So you'll have these nice, big, thick pieces. And all of these things, I will put, the 2 other tips on preparing it is I generally use olive oil because I really enjoy it. I buy this. I'm like a walking advertisement for Trader Joe's. Use this extra virgin olive oil. I pretty much buy it. I think it's delicious, but because of the spout. I don't know about you, Sarah, but it's like so nice to just be able to grab and pour and not have to use a second hand to take the cap off. And I'll just say this about olive oil. I feel like Liz and I have been trying to eat a lot less meat. And so we cook a lot. We go through an insane amount of vegetables and fruit every week. And I feel like it's so much tastier when it's beautifully roasted. And what helps to make that possible is the oil, the fat that helps with the browning. And so it's nice to play with different amounts to see what you need. Some people spray it on. When I'm working with the cauliflower and cabbage, I usually just will lay it on the pan, usually with parchment. And then I will pour the olive oil right on top of it and then put on the salt and pepper and then turn it over. And when I'm working with squash or with beets, I will take them and I will put them in a large salad bowl and then put on salt and pepper and olive oil and then toss it by hand, because these are less great when they're kind of like sitting. You don't want to, even though you think more oil, more better, that's not always true, because it actually, it stops it from browning up nicely. So let me just pause there and see if there's any questions about or other
can I
vegetables.
make one comment? One thing I like to do instead of a bowl is take a large Ziploc bag, like the gallon size Ziploc bags, and I will dump whatever vegetables I'm going to roast in there, whether it's Brussels sprouts or cauliflower or whatever, toss some olive oil, salt and pepper in there, and then give it a good shake. And it will toss it in all the stuff. And then I don't have to clean another dish and I can just throw it away and I dump it on my pan with parchment. Into the oven it goes.
There you go. I love that. We often just use the salad bowl, because then we're like I'm gonna come back and we make like a salad in the bowl. We don't have, that's like with the same idea of not having to clean, which I think is of a very high order.
Yeah. I also love roasted asparagus, to whoever mentioned asparagus.
Charlene Stein said she likes roasting asparagus, and Nancy Duster says cauliflower is good for steaks, with quotation marks.
Yeah.
Cauliflower steaks.
Yeah, so you can do steaks also with the cabbage. So if there aren't any other questions, let's jump into this. Let's jump into the salad dressing. This salad dressing is inspired by one that my mom makes, which is fantastic. It's like, first of all, the difference between a homemade dressing and a store-bought dressing, let me think of what a comparison is. You know, it's like playing in your backyard versus going to like Topanga Canyon. Like, it's just not the same. It's just so much better. It's just extraordinary. So I think it is really worth, especially if you're working with a lot of vegetables, most of the calories and fat in a salad come from the salad dressing, and you might as well like put in there the things that you love. You're gonna make it, when you make it yourself, you do it without preservatives. You can make a bunch at once. I gave a recipe to make I'm gonna make one side the smaller amount today, but you can also make it to scale. I made up this recipe myself, and I made it to scale, and we've used it like 6 or 7 times. And so it's like we had our own store-bought. And I find that this is like a very tart, but very clean and bright dressing. And so you can put it on any salad. You can also play with it and add different things. So I'm going to give you the kind of straight ahead version. And then if we can talk about different things that you might want to add to enhance it. Is Reuben okay? Reuben's doing good. Okay. So the first thing that we have here is we start with zesting lemon. If people don't have a zester at home, this is a microplane zester. How do I get on video? Oh God. People probably know this already, but Microplane actually was this company that was for, it was a wood shaving company. So they had all this equipment that was great for shaving wood and smoothing corners and all of that. And they realized that the design of the cuts in the metal was perfect for zesting lemons or Parmesan or other things. So they have all different shapes and sizes. This is kind of the standard one for zesting lemons, but I know I am a little bit passionate about food, but I would say when I see like a lemon that gets cut up and it hasn't been zested, I feel just like a little sadness, because that zest is like the key to making great food. I think like using zest as often as you can to add flavor and brightness to your food, as well as like adding salt, is like, it makes a huge difference in the food that you're cooking. So this starts with the zest of a lemon. And then I get to about a third or a fourth, this is about a fourth of a cup of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. And then it is a fourth of a cup of olive oil, So we will put in that olive oil, and then I feel again like I'm going to be doing some product placement, but we do use a lot of fresh garlic all the time. And I don't know if people have seen this product before, but this is the kind of pre-crushed. I think it's actually Jewish. It's from Dorot. It's kosher. People who aren't Jewish can also use this. I see Suhasini wondering. Yes, it's open to everybody. It's pre-crushed and it's fresh, and they're just in these delightful little cubes. I don't know if people have seen these before. They do sell them at Trader Joe's, and you can get ginger this way, and I think they even sell like basil this way. So you can just like take it and peel back the thing and then just like pop it in. And of course now it's defrosted, so it doesn't plop as dramatically. But that is just one clove, and it doesn't like get the garlic all over your hands or the cutting board. It's like, again, back to Sarah's theme, and I think our theme of just like, how can we do less cleaning in this moment is very nice. So you put in the garlic, and then the other piece, which I don't know if I got this from my mom, I'm gonna give her credit because I literally wouldn't be here without her, is to use capers. I think capers are also kind of like zest and salt. Capers you can mix into a whole bunch of different things in different ways. I put them in a lot of stews and soups. Obviously, when you're sauteing fish or chicken, you can add capers to add a brininess, a kind of toothsome kind of umami quality. And so you could just take a little bit of the capers, and then you just want to just cut them up till they're nice and minced. And those are going to go in, and they'll add a little bit of texture and brininess to the bite. You want them to be fairly well minced. This is probably the hardest part of the entire dressing.
I was so excited to see that there were capers in this. I love their brininess, and my kids happen to love capers. Well, sorry, my 6-year-old. What?
Your kids love capers?
My 6-year-old and my 1-year-old love capers, or my 5.5-year-old. Yeah, my 8-year-old says no, thank you.
This is our second one we've gone through in like a month. This is a big thing of capers, and then we have to transfer it into this smaller caper container.
Do you know that a little caper juice in a dirty martini will add that lovely brine in a way that is different than just plain olive juice? It's delicious.
Why is that?
I don't know. There's like a saltiness to it that just comes through that is really lovely. So I always add a little dash of caper liquid in a dirty martini.
Great. So that's actually the perfect transition. So I'm going to plop in the capers, and then I am going to take a little bit of the caper juice as it says in the recipe, and you can put that in. And before I add the salt, what I would say for some people, I know a lot of people are very conscious about salt intake, is you could just hold on the salt, make this recipe, shake it up, and then taste it. If you want more salt, great. If not, you don't need salt. The capers and then the caper juice obviously have salt in them. They're brined. So, that's one way to just pull back on the salt. And then I do about, I think, a teaspoon or a tablespoon or so. It was really hard to measure out this recipe. I don't know if people just make things all the time and never measure them. So put in the mustard, and that's a, what's that called, Liz, when it combines? It binds, it's emulsion. It's like it binds all of the ingredients together. It's very tasty. There's some tartness. There's a little bit of bite. There's a little heat. This is a Dijon mustard. I'm just gonna check my recipe if I forgot anything. I got my garlic. Oh my God, I almost forgot. I think this is a key ingredient. Sometimes this causes a little tension in my relationship with Liz, but I like to put in something a little bit sweet when I have something really tart. I like sweetness. It's not just that I like spiciness, I like sweetness. I do, I have a sweet side. I think we all do. We all have a sweet side and a tart side.
Absolutely. I think your sweet side comes through more than you think it does.
Really?
Yes.
That's my kids. Okay, so then I'm just gonna put a little squeeze of this honey in. It's probably just about a teaspoon. And again, all of this is adjustable. What I love about a recipe for making salad dressing is there's so much freedom. And I think actually, even though this recipe is inspired by my mom, what she likes to do is she likes to shave in some Parmesan, right? Is that right, Mom? Can you put your hand in the air and wave it around? That's right. And if you have in your refrigerator, if you have anchovy paste also can kind of do the same thing. You can see it used in many different recipes to add a kind of brininess, some earthiness, some umami. All of that can also happen from anchovy paste. The other thing that can be fun to add to this, I'm just going to put it out there, is nutritional yeast. This is like, I feel like the unsung, one of the unsung items that we see right now. A lot of people put this on popcorn. You can mix it into a whole bunch of different things. It adds, it has a kind of Parmesan-like quality, vegan. Thank you. I know there's some criticism as I was reverse spatchcocking the chicken last month, but I'm back. I'm just doing all vegan today. Cantor Kates, if you're watching this, it's for you. And I think those are all the elements, salt and pepper. So I'm just gonna do pepper. I love fresh pepper. I think it does taste a lot brighter and better, and not afraid to go a little crazy with that. And
we do have a couple of questions in the chat while you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, what do you see?
Okay, so Dana Kasel asks, I have a question about fennel bulbs. Have never roasted these. Also, why roast in convection oven versus regular?
Okay, awesome. First, Dana, I was literally like so bummed that I didn't have the fennel bulbs, but I realized we eat them. Not personal, but we were hungry. We had them before, but I roast them also. I cut them the same way, which is that I just, will cut them here and then cut them into fourths. I like it a little thicker. I find that they do dry out. Like the outer shell of them gets dry, but the middle is like molten artichoke. It's so tasty. I love fennel. I think it's another great thing to be roasting. And so my understanding is with baking, you're just getting like heat from one direction. I actually use convection roast, and convection I think just means that the air is blowing it around. And I think it gets a much more complete roast. And what happens is that when you want to, as much as possible, put in the vegetables and then just leave them as long as you can. Obviously, you don't want them to burn, but there is something that happens as the moisture is drawn out of the vegetables in the convection. It is then blowing around so that the browning is happening, but the vegetables also remain moist. So if you have the convection oven, which most modern ovens do have that, I think not all of them, but many of them do. And I honestly, for the life of me, don't know the difference between convection, bake, and roast. I don't know if maybe somebody in the chat knows, maybe Sarah knows. I mean,
I actually don't know either. I think it might be the way that the fan goes on. Maybe the fan for one of them is intermittent and one of them is constant, or it's a high fan versus a low fan. Those would be my guesses. Ours is a manual fan, so I don't know.
You're like manual and you're like cranking it?
No, like manual, like you just turn the fan on and you feel that it's a fan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your fan, Sarah.
No, it's because we have professional ovens, and so there's like nothing digital on them. You literally flip the switch and you hear the fan turn on.
Amazing. Well, I think the fan matters. So I have an old artichoke container here, and I marinated artichokes. Not that the artichokes are old, and I poured everything in there, and then just shaking it up. Put that in there, and then it totally just like emulsifies. It all comes together, and we'll just do a quick taste test and see. I think it's very good. Look, I made it. I like it. And you can just add other things to this. I think the other thing I remember, I was visiting my cousin Mindy, who's really like an aunt to me, up in Vermont, and we were in her friend's kitchen. She said, "Do you want to make the dressing?" And I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know you could make dressings the way she was talking about. And she said, "Yeah, here's a little vinegar and a little olive oil." And she said, "Just pick the spices you want. And once you go about 50% olive oil or whatever oil you want, and 50% some sort of vinegar or some sort of citrus, then you can just, the sky's the limit. I mean, sometimes we can add cumin or coriander. You could do a masala one. You could do curry. You can add any type of the spices, put in thyme and oregano. I think dressings are really fun. I feel like we don't have enough fun with them in
I
society.
love dressings. I make them from, we don't have any jarred dressing in our house. We make them all from scratch. And I think that they're such a amazing way to brighten up really plain dishes.
Yeah.
And my
What
kids,
do you guys have a go-to dressing that you guys use?
I mean, we make like a balsamic vinaigrette or just with, I mean, I sort of just throw a bunch of stuff in, but usually it's some brown mustard, honey, some kind of vinegar, and then olive oil, salt and pepper. And then I like to emulsify it in a, like the NutriBullet in a blender, because it really cuts through and it helps to emulsify. And so it all stays together. And I really love that.
Amazing. Well, I'm gonna pull out the roast vegetables that I put in before so you can see what they look like. And then I have one last thing I'm gonna talk about.
We do have a couple other chat items whenever you have time.
Okay, fantastic. So let's just go through, I don't know if you can see the kind of roast nature and the softness of this is the cabbage. It's so sweet and so soft. It's like melting.
That looks good.
This is giving me what it is. And then this is the type of browning that we want on the cauliflower. We want it to be brown and delicious. It's soft and sweet. We have these kind of caramelization on the beets. These are the golden beets. That's perfect. Babe, these are so good. I'm gonna give one.
What's the difference between golden beets and regular beets, Rabbi Ross?
I think that I do think that the golden ones are a little bit, they're just easier to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, if you throw the golden beets on a tray with other vegetables, they won't stain. It's like I did all my vegetables and I put my red beets, because that was all I could find, in a little packet, and I threw them into a small oven so that they don't get on anything else.
That's one good positive. Yeah.
Huge.
I got really excited. These are the kind of organic sweet potatoes. We could have these like 2 or 3 times a week. I think they're so delicious. I'm going to show you in a second. I cut up all these vegetables. We'll just eat them straight up. I'm going to show you some sauces we could put on it.
No,
we
I don't.
make these kind of bowls that we've been making for years, but are also now really popular at like Mendocino Farms and stuff. You can pay $15, or you can make like 17 of them at home for $15. But you can just cut these up. This is the Vidalia onions. They are so soft and so melty. I feel like I'm that guy with the commercial with the toaster with the rotisserie in it. What's his name? Ronco.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then
Now, do you ever flip the veggies halfway through? A lot of recipes call for that, and not flipping would be so much easier. That's one question we got.
You know what? Do what's easy for you. You don't have to. These were flipped. I do like flipping them. I like it when they get brown on both sides. Extra caramelization is extra sweetness. It's more flavor. You can also take these when you roast. This is roast squash, butternut squash, and you can take these and then put them in a pot with some broth and blend it up and make a soup. So all of these things can then be extended through using them in salads and other things like that. The last thing I was going to say, this is like a breakthrough cooking tip that we learned really because we were just so occupied, we didn't deal with something, and then it turned out to be an amazing revelation. So is everybody sitting down? Okay. So after you cook it and it gets brown and it's kind of has the softness that you want, then turn on the heat and let it cook in the radiant heat. When you cook a steak, I know I'm like Mr. Vegan today, but when you cook a steak, you brown it and you cook it to however you like it, you then let it rest so that the juices circulate in the meat, and it results in much more tender meat. People probably know this, right? So you wait about 10 minutes before you cut into a piece of meat. I find with the cabbage and with the cauliflower, this is particularly true. Once you cook it, it looks beautiful, but then when you leave it in the oven, something happens. I don't know, it kind of like rests. It's much more moist. It doesn't dry out, and it is just like more tender and more delicious. So try the 10-minute rest in the oven with the heat off after it is how you think you love it, but then you leave it 10 more minutes and you will love it even more. Okay, last thing I was gonna do is Let's see if I can do this without burning myself.
Can
Last
I just answer? Oh, go ahead. I was just going to comment, Peachy just commented about the parchment paper. And I think both for baking and for roasting vegetables, it's so easy to throw parchment paper down. And then it's really easy cleanup and you don't really have to wash as much. So I love parchment paper. We buy it actually in these pre-cut sheets.
Yes, I can't find them at Ralph's. They've been sold out the last like month.
Oh, I didn't know that they ever had them at Ralph's. You can order them on Amazon and you get a really big box and it's so worth it to just have them.
That, I was just going to mention that. I think it is such a good innovation because otherwise it's always like hanging off the side. It's no good.
And curling up.
It's amazing. We like bumped into those. They were kind of like on an upper shelf and I thought that seems so weird. And then I was like, this is brilliant.
Arlene says they sell them in a roll at Costco. I would like to add that for baking, not roasting, I've used silicone baking sheets and that also is a lifesaver.
Yes, I have those as well. Sometimes that changes the cooking time a little bit.
It's better for baked goods like cookies and things.
Yeah.
It is
So
good.
the last thing I'm going to just share are a couple other kind of food things. We're going to wrap up in 2 or 3 minutes. It can be really nice the way that I think about the dressing that we prepare today is it's very high flavor. So you don't need to use a lot as you toss it. Hopefully you are tossing your salad in a bowl before you eat it. It's so much better when you can kind of get around it and move it around. It really coats everything. And so you can worry less about how much oil is in it or how much salt. If you're going to use less of it, it's going to have more flavor. Other things with very high flavor that I think are very fun to have around the house if you don't have them already. This is maybe your child around. It's this product called Bitchin. Have people use this? My sister, Melissa, introduced it to me in San Diego, but now it's available at Ralph's. It's also vegan. It's made with kind of ground almonds, but it has a lot of garlic and flavor. They have, this one says almond. It says the almond.
I think usually they're cashew and they have like an imitation one at Trader Joe's that is cashew.
Their tagline says the almond dip.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. It's the number one ingredient is almond, but maybe they make ones with cashew. This actually does have yeast in it and brag and garlic and there's cilantro and they're very tasty. They're a little expensive. They're $6, but you often just use like a teaspoon of it and it gives a lot of flavor into stews and things like that. Two other things if you don't have around the house, which are fun. One is this Avyar. People probably know this product. It's usually sold in the Persian markets or Russian markets at Ralph's, but it's mostly just red peppers and eggplant, and it's actually pretty low calorie. It's like 30 calories for 2 tablespoons or something, and it has a lot of flavor. It tastes very fresh. Once you open it, you want to eat it pretty quickly, but it's a really nice flavor. And the last thing that's a big flavor addition is the thing, I think it's a very hot condiment across America and internationally and in the Chinese market, which is spicy chili crisp. Raise your hand if you know this one. Do you know this one, Suhasini? Are you on this? Yeah. So they just said that there's been a huge revitalization in the village or town where spicy chili crisp is made in China. And this has fried chilies and fried onions, and it's very high oil, so it's very fattening, but you just need a tiny bit. Often you'll see it in different restaurants when they serve you dumplings. But Trader Joe's has a chili crisp now. This Lao Ganma is the kind of traditional one. You can see it's kind of she has a little bit of a bitter, unhappy face, but she makes a great spicy sauce. So those are just some little spicy sauces that you can add. And the last thing, just to honor Cantor Kate's, because she was going to make a quinoa. So I did a quick quinoa here. And so I often am just mixing salad with a grain. So I put I'm actually just making dinner for Liz and for me right now. So I put some quinoa in there, maybe half a cup. And then can I have some scissors, please? I've mentioned this before. We really love scissors. They're so fast. It can be easier. I don't know, Sara, are you a big scissors person? Because you have kids.
I do really love scissors. Yeah, but I also love, Jonah really loves good knives. So we're into knife work.
Knife work is nice too. We just got there's a big sale at Sur La Table. Did you see that?
No, he's into like a Japanese.
That's what this is. This is probably the low end Japanese. This is the global. He'd be disappointed with me.
No,
But
he would be very happy with you, but he likes like handmade where you have to find them from the person and he likes the story. It's a whole thing.
that's so hardcore. I am not that hardcore. So when we take this, take some cabbage and you just take some scissor and then you can just like kind of cut it up and put it in. We often, when we go out with the kids, we will take scissors with us because it's easier to cut up food that way.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really fun. Especially if you go out for pho, for Vietnamese noodles or ramen. You know, if
It's
you
like what they do if you go to Korean barbecue. They cut all the meat with scissors.
exactly, they'll give it to you because they see. So you could just take one of these guys and then you can kind of cut the floor. It's so soft. It's so soft. So good. And then and then you can just kind of get in there if you want to. And then we have some lettuce. And then just put the lettuce in like this on top. And I've been using, I don't know if you use radicchio. It's like
Radicchio, I love it.
it's so tasty. So radicchio as kind of, you just want to use like 1/8 radicchio in any salad. It's very bitter, but it adds such a gorgeous color. And it goes so well with this dressing. There is Milo and Olive has a very tasty radicchio salad with arugula and kind of, they do that fried caper thing. I
also love radicchio. If you roast radicchio or grill radicchio, that's a delicious way to sort of soften up that really bitter flavor.
I was gonna roast the radicchio, but then we ate that also because I forgot that I have to feed the family. So, and then I just like toss it. Would you grab a bowl from there, please? And tossing it all together, I think this is the best. It really brings it together. And so we have quinoa here. This is some great Japanese bowls from the Mitsuwa supermarket. If people have here, that can be very fun to go to a Japanese supermarket right in West LA. And then, you know, just decant this. And you'll see all of the colors will emerge. There's the purple from the cabbage. There's the golden from the squash and from the beets. And then, say one last thing. We'll often put some toasted sliced almonds on top, or slivered almonds is very nice to get a little extra crunch. And it's like just hearty and filling and nourishing. And you have the sweet and tart and toothsome element of the roast veggies. And I didn't even get to the tofu. I didn't even get to the extra firm, high protein tofu. I think this is a very good product as well, but I didn't get to it. For next time, high protein tofu. Any last questions before we wrap up today, Suhasini?
We have a few questions about the special sauces you use. The eggplant red pepper, what is the name of it and where do you buy it?
Yes, so it's spelled A-J-V-A-R, Avyar, and it's Sadaf, which I think actually, again,
is a Jewish brand.
Things. They make hummus.
Many companies make this. You can get this at any, I think I might have gotten this at Ralph's, either at Ralph's or at the Persian market, Jordan market on Westwood in Westwood. It's very common in Russian markets. I actually ended up being reminded of it. We used to have it, I feel like, Mom, didn't we used to have it growing up, the Avyar around the house? But I had had it for years, and then there's an artist that I never heard of that everybody else knows named Dua Lipa.
Yes.
Yes, I never heard of her before, but then Stephen Colbert was talking about her, and then I Googled her, and I found out she's Albanian, and then I watched an interview of her talking about what type of food from Albania she loves, and she said Avyar, and I thought I would love to have that, and so I got it, and that's my Avyar story.
Love it. I think they actually make a knockoff at Trader Joe's as well.
I'm sure you do.
Hazel really wants to say hi.
Hello, sweetie.
Hi.
All right. Any last burning questions, Suhasini?
I don't see anything else in the chat. I think everyone wants to know all of the brands that you used for the regular like add-ins. I gave them the link to the B word.
Okay, thank you. What other add-ins? Oh, this one. This is the spicy chili crisp. There was just a New York Times article about spicy chili crisp, about how it's revitalized. and you can, I can't really pronounce the name of it, but it's Lao Ganma, Ganma. And this is the kind of traditional one. I bought some for my best friend's Chinese, and I got him this fancy one that cost $15. And then he just gave me this one in return, which I think is saying I love you. Okay, I think the last thing I want to encourage everybody is if you do go to the Jordan market, go to the any Persian market, ask for the French feta. The French feta is so good. It's less salty, more mild, and more creamy. So that's the last tip of the day. It's so good to be with all of you. Early Hag Sameach. I have to be the first person to wish you Hag Sameach for Purim. And I'm Spicy. And Sarah, who are you?
I'm Sweet.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
So great to be with all of you. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a delicious dinner.
Bye, me too.
Do you want some hot sauce?
Hey.